I am truly sorry for this. I ask forgiveness from both this court and Melissa's family.
Logan Barnhart went from bodybuilding stages to assaulting police officers during the January 6th riots. Evangelos Goussis became a contract killer feared across Australia. Meanwhile, Daniel Lugo's crimes were so extreme that Hollywood turned them into a blockbuster. In this video, we're looking at big-time bodybuilders who became actual criminals. Let's begin with the deadliest of them all, Craig Titus.
I'm ashamed and I am sickened at my actions after Melissa passed away. It was all drug-induced. It was all ridiculous. I'm so sorry this happened. I don't know where her mom is, but...
Born January 14, 1965 in Wyandotte, Michigan, Titus was an IFBB professional who earned his pro card by winning both the heavyweight class and overall title at the 1996 NPC USA Championships. Standing between 5'8" and 5'9", with a competition weight of roughly 240 to 250 pounds, he was known for his exceptional muscular thickness, particularly in his back, arms, and legs, and an aggressive stage persona that fans either loved or hated. Titus competed on the Mr. Olympia stage multiple times, achieving placements of 12th in 2001 and 11th in 2002. He even wrote a monthly column for Muscular Development magazine from July 2003 to November 2005. But beneath the surface of this successful career lurked a history of drug problems and legal troubles that foreshadowed the darkness to come. Back in April 1995, he had pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute ecstasy in Louisiana, receiving 16 months of house arrest with an electronic monitor. Then, in July 1997, he violated probation by testing positive for anabolic steroids and was sentenced to 21 months in federal prison. Even after achieving professional success, Titus couldn't escape the shadow of his addictions and the volatile temper that those close to him knew all too well. But nothing could have prepared the bodybuilding world for what happened in December 2005. Titus was married to fitness competitor Kelly Ryan, and the couple employed a 28-year-old woman named Melissa James as their live-in personal assistant. James had met the couple at a 2001 competition in Florida and moved to Las Vegas to help with their home and business. But by late 2005, the relationship had soured. The couple accused James of stealing money, and Titus reportedly had an affair with her, a volatile mix fueled by heavy use of cocaine, methamphetamine, OxyContin, and morphine. On December 13, 2005, a violent confrontation erupted in their Las Vegas home. According to evidence and confessions gathered during the investigation, James was tasered multiple times, body slammed, choked, and had morphine forced down her throat. Her death resulted from a combination of morphine overdose, possible strangulation, and taser injuries. But Titus and Ryan weren't done. They bound her body in a fetal position with duct tape, forming what investigators called a death mask over her face.
I am truly sorry for this. I ask forgiveness from both this court and Melissa's family.
Then placed her in the trunk of Ryan's red 2003 Jaguar. In the early morning hours of December 14th, Ryan purchased 7 bottles of charcoal lighter fluid at a Walmart using James's credit card, all captured on surveillance footage. The couple then drove the Jaguar to the desert outside Las Vegas and set it ablaze with James's body inside. A trucker discovered the burning vehicle, and firefighters extinguished it before it was completely destroyed, preserving crucial evidence. After a 9-day nationwide manhunt, Titus and Ryan were arrested on December 23, 2005, in a Walmart parking lot in Stoughton, Massachusetts. Authorities believed they were heading to Greece, where Titus had family heritage and no U.S. extradition treaty existed. To avoid the death penalty, Titus pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and arson on May 30, 2008. He was sentenced to 21 to 55 years in prison. As of December 2025, he remains incarcerated at Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada, with parole eligibility beginning December 23, 2026. But if Titus represented rage and chaos at the end of the 90s, there was another icon whose story proved that the darkness in this sport ran far deeper and far older: Bertil Fox. When we talk about the greatest arms in bodybuilding history, one name consistently rises to the top of the conversation: Bertil Fox. Born January 5, 1951 on the Caribbean island of St. Kitts, Fox's family emigrated to London, England when he was just 1 year old. Flex editor Bill Reynolds nicknamed him Brutal Bertil for his insanely high-volume, heavy training, often 30 or more sets per body part with murderous intensity. At his peak, Fox stood 5'8" with a contest weight of 235 to 245 pounds, featuring arms measured at 22 to 23 3 inches cold. Widely regarded as the best developed arms of the era, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself called him a traditional bodybuilder and strongman with huge deltoids, small waist, and great proportions. Fox won the NABBA Pro Universe in 1978 and 1979 and competed in 5 Mr. Olympias, with his best placement being 5th in 1983. The same year he beat Lee Haney head-to-head at the Swiss Grand Prix. His arms often drew comparisons to cannons, full peaked biceps and sweeping triceps that made even elite competitors look small in side-by-side photos. After retiring from competition in 1994 following a 13th place finish at the Ironman Pro, he returned to St. Kitts and opened Fox's gym in 1995, hoping to give back to his community and train the next generation. Then came September 30th, 1997.
Well, about 10:16 a.m. on Tuesday the 30th of September 1987, we received a call by the 911 emergency line that 2 persons had been shot on Kearn Street, near a place called Karen's Fabric.
That day, Fox shot and killed his ex-fiancée, 20-year-old beauty queen Leoka Brown, and her mother, 36-year-old Violet Brown, in Violet's sewing shop in Basseterre, St. Kitts. Fox claimed he had confronted them about a missing revolver and that the gun went off accidentally during a struggle.
He grabbed for the weapon, and as he grabbed for the weapon, there was a resistance from the mother. The weapon went off because by that time, Leoka had positioned herself between him and the mother, and so the weapon went off. The resistance continued. A second shot went off, and a bullet caught each of them.
But the prosecution painted a different picture, one of a jealous rage after Fox discovered a money transfer from another man to Leoka. A seamstress reportedly heard Violet say, "Don't come in here with that," 3 times before gunshots rang out. Fox was convicted of both counts of murder in May 1998 and sentenced to death by hanging. He appealed to the UK Privy Council and had his sentence commuted to life imprisonment. After serving approximately 25 years, Fox received a pardon from Governor General Sir Tapley Seton on August 4th, 2022, and was released the following day at age 71. He has since moved back to London to live quietly with family. Yet Fox's story, shocking as it was, couldn't prepare anyone for the storm that came next. A crime fueled by steroids, trauma, and a marriage soaked in fear. Sally McNeil.
911. I just shot my husband because he just beat me up.
You shot your husband?
Yes.
Okay, is he dead?
He's shot.
Few cases have generated more debate about self-defense, domestic abuse, and steroid rage than that of Sally Marie McNeil. Born September 30th, 1960 in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Sally grew up in a highly abusive household where her father regularly beat her mother and Sally herself. She later said she believed domestic violence was normal because it happened in every home she knew. Sally found structure in the U.S. Marine Corps, where she rose to the rank of sergeant and began bodybuilding seriously in 1987. She won the U.S. Armed Services Physique Championship twice in 1987 and 1988. Known for her extraordinarily muscular physique, at her peak, she weighed around 165 to 170 pounds at just 5'3", with visible vascularity and striations that were groundbreaking for women at the time. She met Ray McNeil, a fellow Marine and rising bodybuilding star who would go on to place 15th at the 1993 Mr. Olympia at a gym on base. They married on June 27, 1987, after dating only 2 months. According to Sally, Ray punched her in the face 3 days after the wedding, splitting her lip. The abuse escalated, repeated choking, a broken nose, broken bones, a punctured lung, all while both were heavy anabolic steroid users. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1995, Ray returned home late after spending the day with his mistress, Mary Ann Myers. An argument erupted about infidelity and money. According to Sally, Ray slapped her, pushed her down, and began choking her in what she described as a steroid-fueled rage. She broke free, ran to the bedroom, grabbed a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun, and when Ray advanced, she fired once into his abdomen. As he fell to his knees and tried to speak, she pumped the action and fired a second slug into his face. The children were home. Their daughter Shantina, then 11 or 12, heard the choking sounds and later saw Ray's body. Sally called 911 at 10:54 p.m., hysterically saying, "I just shot my husband because he just beat me up." The prosecution argued premeditated murder, using her wrestling video covers to portray her as violent and masculine, claiming a woman of her strength couldn't be a battered woman.
We, the jury, the devoted titled cause, find the defendant, Sally Marie McNeil, not guilty of the crime of first-degree murder.
The jury convicted her of second-degree murder in March 1996, and she was sentenced to 19 years to life. After serving approximately 25 years, Sally was paroled in 2020. Her story was revisited in the 2022 Netflix docuseries Killer Sally, which emphasized the abuse, steroid culture, and what many saw as trial sexism. As of 2025, she lives a quiet, private life in Northern California with her husband Norfleet Stewart. But personal tragedy soon gave way to something even more outrageous. Crimes so wild, so brazen, that Hollywood turned them into a blockbuster. Daniel Lugo.
We, the jury, find Daniel Lugo should be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to count 4, Frank Griga, life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The crimes of Daniel Lugo and his Sun Gym gang are so outrageous, so cartoonishly violent, that Hollywood turned them into a movie. Born circa 1963 in the Bronx, New York, Lugo was a charismatic ex-convict and personal trainer who became obsessed with the American dream. Luxury cars, mansions, and wealth he believed he deserved but hadn't earned. Working at the Sun Gym in Miami, Lugo assembled a loose crew of steroid-pumped bodybuilders frustrated with their financial status despite their physiques. Steroid abuse was rampant among the group. Members injected testosterone, trenbolone, and other anabolics, leading to what experts would later describe as roid rage, extreme strength, paranoia, and poor impulse control that amplified Lugo's grandiosity and the group's willingness to escalate from petty fraud to horrific violence. The group's first major target was Mark Schiller, a wealthy businessman. After 7 failed abduction attempts, including one where gang members dressed as ninjas, they successfully kidnapped Schiller on November 15, 1994, tasering him outside his deli. For approximately 30 days, they held Schiller captive, blindfolded, pistol-whipped, burned with cigarettes, tasered, and psychologically tortured, forcing him to sign over approximately $1.2 million in assets. Then they attempted to kill him by staging a drunk driving accident, running him over twice and setting his car ablaze. Miraculously, Schiller survived and escaped to New York, but the gang wasn't done. In May 1995, they targeted Hungarian millionaire Frank Griga and his girlfriend Christina Furton. During a botched kidnapping at gang member Noel Doorball's apartment, Doorball killed Griga during a struggle. Furton witnessed the murder and was subdued with multiple injections of Rompin, a horse tranquilizer, until she died from overdose. The gang then dismembered the bodies with chainsaws and hatchets, dumping their remains in barrels in the Everglades. Furton was later identified via her breast implant serial number. Lugo was sentenced to death in July 1998. However, following Florida's 2023 law change on jury requirements in December 2024, juries recommended life without parole for both Lugo and Doorball. As of December 2025, Lugo, now 62, remains incarcerated in the Florida prison system. After Lugo's gangland theatrics, the next case felt disturbingly simple: a relationship, an argument, and a killing blamed on steroids. Gordon Kimbro. Gordon Kimbro was a prominent amateur bodybuilder in the San Francisco scene during the late 1980s and early 1990s. At his peak, he weighed around 250 pounds and was nicknamed a chemical machine due to his extreme use of anabolic steroids. He trained at World Gym in the Potrero Hill area and won the mixed pairs title at the 1991 NPC USA Championships alongside his fiancée, Christy Ramsey. Ramsey was also a nationally ranked amateur bodybuilder and front desk worker at World Gym when she met Kimbro in 1989. They were engaged with a planned December 1993 wedding, but court testimony revealed a history of domestic violence. Kimbro admitted to pushing and slapping Ramsey during arguments. On June 20, 1993, Kimbro returned home from a competition to find Ramsey telling him she had slept with another man and was calling off the wedding. According to his own testimony, he exploded in rage. He struck her on the chin, wrapped an electrical cord from a clothing iron 3 times around her neck, and stabbed her multiple times in the throat and neck with a paring knife. Defense attorney Martin Lurie argued heat of passion manslaughter, claiming that uncontrollable roid rage from massive steroid abuse turned a verbal breakup into homicide. The jury rejected this defense and convicted him of first-degree murder in early 1995. He was sentenced to 27 years to life. As of December 2025, Kimbro remains incarcerated. Past her ratings, he was denied parole at a hearing on October 1, 2025. Yet Kimbro's moment of fury pales compared to what comes next: a predator whose fixation turned into a nightmare straight out of a horror film. John Ricardi. John Alexander Ricardi was a former competitive bodybuilder in the 1970s, early 1980s Los Angeles scene. Described in court as massive and intimidating, he financed his lifestyle through serial burglary, specializing in high-end home invasions. He dated Constance Connie Hopkins Navarro, a beautiful model and single mother of 2 sons, including David Michael Navarro, who would grow up to become the famous guitarist of Jane's Addiction and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. After Connie ended their toxic 2.5-year relationship, Ricardi launched a terrifying months-long stalking campaign that would haunt her final final days. There were hundreds of harassing phone calls, some of which were recorded and played in court. He committed repeated break-ins at her West Los Angeles condominium, vandalizing her possessions, stealing personal items, and leaving threatening messages behind. He would park outside her home for hours, conducting physical surveillance, follow her on dates, and show up uninvited at restaurants where she was dining. His death threats became increasingly explicit. "If I can't have you, no one will, and I'll kill you before I let you go." Approximately 1 week before the murders, Ricardi broke into Connie's condo while she had a male guest, pointed a gun at the man, and handcuffed him. Connie reported much of this to police, but was told there was little they could do without more direct violence. She confided to friends that she was terrified, and tragically, she was right to be. On March 3, 1983, Ricardi forced entry into Connie's West Los Angeles condo while she was home with her best friend, Susan Jory. He shot both women multiple times with a .357 Magnum, Connie 8 times, Susan 6 or 7, and bludgeoned them. 15-year-old Dave Navarro was scheduled to stay with his mother that night, but at the last minute stayed with his father. He has said he has no doubt Ricardi would have killed him too. Ricardi fled and lived as a fugitive for 8 years before being captured in March 1991 in Houston, Texas, after America's Most Wanted profiled the case. He was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in July 1994 and sentenced to death. In 2012, the California Supreme Court reversed the death sentence on technical grounds, and he was sentenced to life without parole in 2013. As of 2025, Ricardi, now approximately 89-90 years old, remains incarcerated in the California prison system. But while Ricardi was a grown man consumed by obsession, the next case shocked America because the killer wasn't a hardened criminal at all. He was just a boy. Jamie Fuller. Jamie Fuller's case stands as one of the most disturbing examples of teenage dating violence fueled by steroids. Born in 1975 in Beverly, Massachusetts, Fuller was a 16-year-old high school student and amateur bodybuilder who began using anabolic steroids at age 14. He was described as possessive, controlling, and quick-tempered, and had 2 prior arrests in 1990 for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. His 14-year-old girlfriend, Amy Carnevale, was a freshman cheerleader described as sweet and trusting. Their relationship was toxic from the start. Fuller dictated who she could talk to and physically abused her. In the weeks before her death, Fuller repeatedly told at least 10 to 15 friends that he would kill Amy if she ever left him, saying things like, "Nobody's going to have her if I can't." On August 23, 1991, Fuller lured Amy to his house under the pretense of cutting his hair. She wanted to be a hairstylist someday. Several friends were there, drinking and getting high. Fuller then convinced her to go for a walk in the woods behind Memorial Middle School to talk. Once alone, he put his hand over her mouth, whispered that he loved her, and then stabbed her 10 to 15 times in the abdomen, back, and chest, slashed her throat almost to decapitation, and stomped on her head and neck as she lay dying on the ground. Witnesses later said Amy gurgled, "I love you, Jamie," as she died. Fuller emerged from the woods covered in blood, holding a broken bent knife wrapped in a towel. He told his friends, "It's done," laughed, and bragged about the grisly details. That night, Fuller and friends wrapped Amy's body in trash bags, tied cinder blocks to it, and sank it in Shoe Pond. As they dumped her, Fuller reportedly said, "It sucks to be you, Amy." The jury rejected his steroid-induced rage defense and convicted him of first-degree murder in October 1992. He was sentenced to life without parole, though later court rulings on juvenile sentencing made him eligible for parole hearings. His latest parole hearing in August 2024 resulted in unanimous denial. As of December 2025, Fuller, now 50, remains incarcerated at MCI Shirley in Massachusetts. His case inspired the 1996 Lifetime movie No One Would Tell, but teenage rage was only one side of the coin. On the opposite end was a man whose physique, discipline, and combat skill made him something far more dangerous: a professional killer. Evangelos Angie Goussis. Our final story takes us to Australia and one of the most violent organized crime conflicts of modern times, Melbourne's Gangland War, which claimed at least 36 lives between 1998 and 2010. At the center of it was Evangelos Goussis, a former professional combat sports athlete turned underworld enforcer. Born September 14, 1967 in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, to Greek parents who had fled as political refugees, Goussis immigrated to Melbourne with his family when he was 8. He became a genuinely elite combat sports talent, winning the WKA World Kickboxing Association Middleweight Championship and compiling a record of approximately 27 fights with 19 KOs. He was also a top amateur boxer who was a genuine contender for the 1988 Seoul Olympics, though often described as a bodybuilder or muscle-bound hitman because of his extremely muscular, imposing physique. Goussis' crimes were not those of a rage-filled amateur. He became a professional contract killer. On March 31, 2004, Goussis and an accomplice stormed the Brunswick Club on Sydney Road, where 58-year-old Louis Moran tried to flee through the poker machine room. Goussis chased him down and shot him twice. The fatal bullet fired execution-style into the back of the head at point-blank range. Just 5 weeks later, on May 8, 2004, Goussis was convicted of murdering Louis Kane, a volatile standover man who was shot once in the face in the backseat of a USAT car and dumped in Brunswick. However, significant doubts persist about whether Goussis was the actual shooter in the Kane murder. Multiple sources describe it as Melbourne's worst-kept gangland secret that he may have loyally taken the fall for an older criminal mentor. Goussis was sentenced to life imprisonment with a 30-year non-parole period. As of December 2025, at age 58, he remains incarcerated in maximum security facilities, continuing to pursue appeals based on claims of police misconduct and withheld evidence. But contract killings weren't the only form of violence tied to muscular men with larger-than-life personas. In 2021, one fitness model's actions would become a defining image of political extremism. Logan Barnhart. Not all bodybuilder criminals are murderers. Some become symbols of political violence that shakes a nation to its core. Logan James Barnhart was a former competitive bodybuilder, fitness model, and pipe layer from Holt, Michigan, known for his extremely lean, shredded physique that graced the covers of dozens of romance novels. One prominent example was the cover of Stepbrother Unsealed, a bad boy military romance by Nicole Snow, where he appeared bearded, heavily muscled, and in military-themed attire. His modeling photos, featuring his heavily tattooed torso, distinctive beard, and extreme vascularity, were widely circulated on Instagram and bodybuilding sites. Those same distinctive photos would be his undoing. Barnhart was an enthusiastic Trump supporter who traveled to Washington, D.C. for the Stop the Steal rally on January 6, 2021. After Trump's speech, he joined the mob at the Capitol and made his way to the Lower West Terrace tunnel area, the site of some of the most brutal fighting of the day. What happened next was captured on video that would be seen around the world. Around 4:20 p.m., in a coordinated heave, rioters dragged Metropolitan Police Department officer Brian Mastriano headfirst down the stone steps into the crowd. Barnhart was one of the primary participants. Video shows him grabbing the officer around the torso and hauling him downward. Once in the mob, Officer Mastriano was beaten unconscious with flagpoles, stolen police batons, and other weapons. Online investigators from the Sedition Hunters community gave Barnhart the hashtag #CatSweat because he wore a black Caterpillar brand hoodie during the riot. His highly recognizable muscular physique, beard, and tattoos made identification almost immediate. At least one tip came from a woman who had matched with him on the dating app Bumble and recognized him from both riot photos and his shirtless profile pictures. Multiple other tips linked the riot footage to his romance novel cover work. Barnhart was arrested on August 17, 2021 in Michigan. On September 28, 2022, he pleaded guilty to a single felony count of assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers. On April 13, 2023, he was sentenced to 36 months in federal prison, followed by 36 months of supervised release and $2,000 in restitution. In court, Barnhart expressed remorse, saying he got caught up in the frenzy and that he has nothing but love for law enforcement. As of December 2025, with good time credits, his projected release date falls around late 2025 or early 2026. Yet amid the chaos of January 6th, there remains one more story, one that doesn't involve gangs or jealous lovers, but the quiet collapse of a man who once rebuilt others for a living. Dr. Bruce Nadler. Our final story is perhaps the most tragic, a tale of professional ruin, untreated depression, and a murder-suicide that stunned the bodybuilding community. Dr. Bruce J. Nadler, born circa 1947, was an American plastic surgeon who carved out a unique niche. He specialized in cosmetic procedures tailored specifically to bodybuilders, particularly those using anabolic steroids. He billed himself as the world's strongest plastic surgeon and was an avid competitive bodybuilder himself, known for his own impressive physique. Nadler performed over 700 gynecomastia surgeries, correction of enlarged breast tissue in men, a common side effect of steroid use, and catered heavily to amateur and professional bodybuilders in New York. Bodybuilding forums from the era frequently praised him as the go-to doctor for gyno fixes, with many pros crediting him for their stage-ready appearances. He advertised in magazines like Muscular Development and was described as personable and knowledgeable by patients. What made Nadler controversial was his outspoken advocacy of performance-enhancing drugs. In interviews, he openly discussed his personal regimen: 6-8 IU of growth hormone per week, alternating 200 million-hour weekly cycles of nandrolone decanoate and testosterone cypionate. He used his own body as a test laboratory for hormone protocols and criticized U.S. anti-steroid laws as politically motivated hysteria. He stated, "I've always felt that politicians always have to make the majority of the electorate think that they're doing something, so they inconvenience a small, unimportant group, like bodybuilders. They took something that could have been done safely and sent it to the black market." But Nadler's career came crashing down in the early 2000s. He faced investigation by the New York State Board for Professional Medical Conduct, was reprimanded in 1999, and placed on 5-year probation for professional misconduct. Charges escalated, involving 29 specifications across 13 patients, primarily for prescribing controlled substances, including anabolic steroids, growth hormones, and ancillary drugs, without proper medical justification. In August 2005, Nadler voluntarily surrendered his New York medical license, effectively ending his surgical career. Nadler and his wife Terry relocated to Los Angeles, where he attempted to reinvent himself. In 2006, he authored a book called The Nip Tuck Workout: Exercise Through the Eyes of a Plastic Surgeon, applying principles of proportion and symmetry to weight training. He opened Nip Tuck Fitness LA in Beverly Hills, a gym and personal training studio. But friends described this period as a difficult transition. Nadler struggled with the loss of his medical practice and prestige. On Saturday, February 2, 2008, Bruce and Terry Nadler were found dead in their Los Angeles home from gunshot wounds. Police responded to reports of gunshots around 11:23 a.m. and discovered Terry's body in the bathroom and Bruce's in the bedroom. The case was ruled a murder-suicide perpetrated by Bruce, who was 61 years old. A note left by Bruce revealed he had been suffering from severe depression and was under a therapist's care. The therapist had recommended hospitalization, but Bruce feared involuntary commitment and refused. He was described as an avid gun collector. In bodybuilding forums, the community widely speculated that long-term anabolic steroid use or withdrawal contributed to Nadler's depression. Nadler had been a heavy user for decades, and losing his license may have forced him to reduce dosages, potentially exacerbating mood issues. No autopsy results confirming steroid levels were publicly released. Nadler's case remains a cautionary tale in bodybuilding circles about the psychological toll of steroids, career-ending scandals, and untreated depression. If you enjoyed this video, click on the cards playing on your screen to watch similar content.